Right, so we want to add some more finer weighting control to our mesh before we get to finish it off. So we're going to do that by going in and doing some individual vertex weighting, as well as kind of doing some flood stuff, mainly around the head here. If we select the head bone and do just some small muscle movement, you can see the bottom of the neck there kind of isn't working very nicely. And if we select the eyeballs like we've seen before, we are dragging quite a bit of the head and the eyeball around, and there's some quite nasty stuff going on there. So we need to sort that out as well. We've also got the area for the jaw, that if we bend the jaw, we've got the weight kind of there of it being attached to the front of the beak, I guess. So painting that's going to be difficult as we kind of work our way around. What's going to make it a bit easier is that we actually individually select vertices and weight them that way. So if we just select the mesh and we select the bind weights tool, or the paint weights tool, sorry, we can have a look and see what's going on with all the various joints here. So if you have a look at the head joint, you can see there's a fairly big influence there around the head, bits of the eyeballs, down here to the neck, and obviously the jaw and that as well. Head joint 2 has even more influence. Got some big patches there of white, so they're all at 100%. Again, it's still traveling quite far down the neck, and again, it's attached to the jaw. If you have a look at the eyeballs there have quite a bit of weight around the eyeball itself, which is great, but also quite a bit of weight around the head, which is why kind of all this is going on a bit horrible. So before we start kind of doing all of these weights, if you haven't done so already, it's a good idea to change this normalized weights from post to interactive. When you say interactive, it says, do you want to normalize the weights? We need to click on yes for this. So when you click on yes, it now changes all the influences that we had across the whole kind of weight table, and it now makes sure that every vertex adds up to 1. So if we made all the vertices of the eyeball attached to the eye, they would all be 1, and it would automatically remove all the weights from any other bone, because a normalized weight can only ever be 1. So now that we've got interactive turned on, doing this bit at the top should make life a bit easier. So we've got the select tool and the paint select tool. The select tool allows us to actually select vertices just by using the same, the normal kind of like the drag select tool. When we go back to paint, whatever bone we've got selected, so let's say we want to select the head joint, go to replace. If we set the value to 1, we can paint around here and nothing happens. But as soon as we reach the vertices that have been selected, we can now start painting into the area. So that's one way of actually creating the weights that we want. The other is, we can use the tools here on the left hand side to do something similar as well. So let's say we want to flood the whole of the head with 100% to the head bone. So if you go to the select tool, let's go into the left view, and we want to select the lasso tool. So perhaps if we zoom in a bit and we just draw around the head, nothing happens. The reason why nothing happens is because it's trying to select the bone as well, because we're currently in object mode up here. And kind of maybe the way that Maya works, it tries to select like by order of importance kind of stuff. So it's always going to try and select the bones if it can. So what we need to do is go into sub-object mode and then try that again. So if we're in sub-object mode, we can draw around, and there's all the vertices selected. Now that we've got all them selected, back into paint mode, hit paint, and now if you do all the kind of various controls, we should be able to paint directly onto just these vertices. So if we start painting, you can see we're doing all the painting here. It doesn't go across to the eyeball because it's a different element of the mesh. If we start with the eyeball, we can, but it won't let us go from one side to the other. Oh, it did there. Yeah, it hasn't there though. Okay, so it's a bit hit and miss. But what we can do is we can apply the flood to everything that's currently selected. So at the moment, if we hit flood, we've got the head one joint selected. It has now applied the flood to just those vertices, which is great. So we want just the influence of the jaw to be valid here. So we just want to select kind of the joints around the jaw really. So if you go back to select again, let's go back into the left view again. Select the lasso tool, and we're still in sub-object mode. So if you have a look around here, and perhaps that might be the best thing to weight the jawbone to. Back to the paint tool again, and we're looking for the jaw. Into paint. There's a few areas around here, that's okay, we can sort that out. And let's have a look at the weighting. So we'll still got a value of 1. If you flood that, we've now got the jaw with a value of 1. You might want to check some other points as well. So we have a look at the jaw end. Now there's no weight on the jaw end now. So hopefully that should be enough for the jaw. If we just come out of this for a second, we'll go back to object mode. Select the jaw and just rotate it. Now we've got just the jaw now influencing these vertices, but obviously it's still a bit nasty around here. We can just use the smooth tool to smooth that out. So stay back in component mode around there. You go to select and turn it off, just so we now have access to the bits that we need. If we go to jaw, turn on smooth, and just have a quick kind of go around here perhaps. And let's see how that looks. So instead of constantly coming in and out of this all the time to see how the jaw is acting, we can do the same as what we did down with the pelvis and hips previously. If you just come out of here, select the jawbone, we do Shift E to add a key, move forward 5 frames perhaps, just move the jaw down, maybe forward another 5 frames, move the jaw right up. So we've got a little animation now of the jaw moving. And you can see now the kind of the jaw. It's probably a bit strong, maybe around this area. So if you just set that to replace, we've still got the jaw selected. Perhaps change the weight. No, change the value down to 0. It might be worth that. Actually, let's do that solid. So okay, smooth. Let's see if that's any better. Yeah, that should be okay now. By the looks of it, that seems to be fine. So we have that done there. Next we can go down to perhaps this left shoulder down here. So it's front left we're looking for, front left leg. You can see there's a huge amount of influence here that this really shouldn't have. So it might be easier to flood the whole thing with 0 and then draw the influence back in again, as opposed to trying to remove all of this. So we hit replace, flood that with 0, back up to 1 again, and this is quite a small area to try and fill in. So we can change the size of the brush. We can use stroke and change the size of it if you want to, and do it that way. Or an easier way would be if you hold down B on the surface and just drag the drag the mouse left or right, you can change the size of the brush there. Also as well, you can change the value if you hold down the N button and then change, and you can see the value kind of going up and down there for the weight. When you leave go, it updates in the value box. But if you've got this open, we've got 2 monitors. I just find it quicker just to basically drag the value there anyway. So make the brush a bit smaller. Value is currently set to 1, and let's just kind of draw around this area around here. We don't want a huge amount of influence from this because it's a fairly small area to work with. Maybe that one as well. And so this is all just basically a bit of guesswork, a bit of trial and error. So trying to kind of add some weights to something, giving it a quick rotation, see how it bends, and going on with the next one. So we've got that there. If we add a bit of smoothness to it, let's make the brush a bit bigger and just kind of draw around this area and also this area around here. See how that weights. With the joint, once we've got it sorted with the other bits. Now, it still might be too much, I don't know. Once we've done it, we can give it a quick test. So that might be enough for that area. Okay, if you have a quick look at the front right leg, you can see here that the influence is still quite substantial. So go back to replace, value at 0, hit flood. We don't kind of need to deal with both sides because we should be able to sort this out when we mirror this across. Okay. So we could carry on and go through with all of this. I'm not going to do it now. So you need to basically just carry on with adding all the various bits and bobs until you've got a weight that you're happy with, at least on one side of the object. Okay, so we can come out of here. If you click on this joint, back into object mode, and give this a small wiggle, you can see how much control that has now over the vertices. No, that doesn't look bad. That looks okay. We can try the bone below. No, that kind of feels okay. That might be good enough. You can see some weights there. Maybe pulling. That needs sorting out. We're gonna have to go back into that again and just reweight that to get rid of that influence. So hopefully quite simply, selecting the mesh, going into this mode again, selecting that bone, so you can see there kind of that this is what it's trying to influence, this kind of ring here that we haven't managed to get rid of. So with a value of 0, let's make the brush a bit smaller, and let's just get rid of these weights around here. So now that we've done that, come back out, let's have another test of this now, and that problem is now gone. So yeah, as you can see, you just work your way along the system, until we've got something we're happy with in terms of all the various influences. We haven't dealt with the eyeballs yet because we're first going to try and copy across the skin weights from one side to the other. So a quick look at what we have. So if we see the left leg here, we've got this influence of this area here, but at the moment on the front right joint there is currently nothing. So it'll be a good way to kind of test to see if the weights have copied across. So the last thing we need to do is mirror the weights across from one side to the other and make sure these eyeballs have been sorted out so they're in the right place. So the first thing I need to do, select the mesh. Perhaps we want to have a look at again, just take one last look at how this leg looks. So if we click on front left leg, you can see the weight here of where it is around the side of the mesh. Front right leg 1, there's nothing there. So if you just go back to normal selection mode, up to skin, mirror skin weights, and make sure you've got the window pop up. So you've got the direction you want to mirror across. So we have YZ set already, which is what we want. We want this kind of side on, this mirror traveling straight down the middle of the object to mirror from one side to the other. And we've got direction in positive to negative. So everything that's on positive X is going to be mirrored across to the negative X. Closest point on surface. So I'm no mathematician, but I'm assuming what it's going to do is find where this vertex is and then find the mirror to where it is on the opposite side. As long as it finds a vertex somewhere nearby, it's going to give that vertex the same weight on the opposite bone. Leave it as it is. It seems to work fine so far. If you just click on apply, it does something because we've got a result now come through. Nothing bad seems to have happened. If we just close that window and have a look at the skin weight, we can see now that the front right leg 1, which was, had no weight assigned to it at all previously, now has this weight assigned to it, which should be exactly the same as what was assigned to the front left leg. So the mirroring seems to have worked quite nicely from one side to the other. So front left leg 2 is pretty much white all the way until we get to this section here with the fall off, and then you've got a slight fall off kind of going on here. Have a look at a similar leg from this point of view. So again, we've got the same fall off there and the same fall off around the knee. So it looks like the copying has worked absolutely fine. And this would have been because my character was at 0, 0, 0, as well as the bones as well. It's done a very straight down the middle mirror. So last thing we need to do is sort the eyes out. So the eyes probably are still quite heavily influenced to the head. So they are. So we can't individually move these at the moment. It's just assigned to the head. So what you want to do is select just the eyeball and assign the eyeballs just to the eyeball joints. So we're going to use the select tool again to select these vertices, but if we go into wireframe mode, it is going to be very difficult to select all the vertices inside here, if not impossible, to get them all the ones that we want, because all we want is the vertices assigned with this sphere mesh. We can do it by using one of the modeling toolkits. So if we click on the modeling toolkit, go into, let's go back to the solid mode again, and we're now in select mode. So just simply selecting a single vertex just gives us a vertex. Now we don't need that. We need the whole eyeball. So just move this slightly out of the way. Oops. You can see here that we have various selection tools for the modeling side of it. There is selection constraint. So if we drop that down and go to shell, shell will basically select every vertex that is within the same mesh. So when the sphere was originally created, it was then kind of merged into the shape of the mesh. So if we select one vertex now, it will select every vertex associated with just that mesh. So we've now selected all the vertices on the eyeball. if we go back to Paint again, all we need to do now is select the left eyeball joint. We seem to have some kind of things there we can sort out in a second. Run replace, set the value to 1, hit flood. So that should be now associated with just the eyeball and nothing else. If you go to select, just unselect that. We should be able to go to the eyeball, hopefully. And just sort out this influence here. So go to value, so replace. Let's make the brush a little bit bigger. That seems to be okay with that. So again, we go to select, hit the one object, and go back to paint. Find the right eyeball, so that seems to have, again, a lot of weight associated with it, but we'll sort that out in a second again. Value up to 1, hit flood. To select, just unselect everything. Back to paint again. Reselect the geometry, and we should be able to remove the value from here as well. So now hopefully, if we go back to the main controls, if we select the eyeball now, it's now just moving the eyeball, which is exactly what we want. Just give it a quick test as well, and that is just selecting the eyeball as well, which is great. So hopefully we should now be able to kind of do what we need with the rest of the joints now in terms of putting IK handles in and some controllers maybe as well. But that for the moment is the end of the skinning process. We shouldn't need any more than that kind of once this is set up correctly with smooth skins. It's a long process, you know, it is going to take a few hours to do. You've seen me doing it here over the past couple of hours to get this far, from setting up the skeleton, etc., to getting it fully skinned. Take your time with it, you know, just kind of go through. It's a little bit fiddly, you know, this is quite nice with a Wacom tablet, etc., but I've just done this with a mouse. You've just got to kind of try and get used to how the select works, selecting the actual joint you want to work on, giving it a go, testing it, going back in again, and just going backwards and forwards and just trying to refine these weights as best you can. Okay, so that's the end of that. What we're going to do next is look at adding the IK handles to the object and adding some small amount of controllers to get the IK handles working. It's pretty much at this point where we decide whether you want to stick with just the simple IK handles that Maya comes with. I think for 99% of us that's going to be enough. If you want to push yourself a little bit further and kind of find that was actually quite easy and you enjoy the process, we'll have a look at building our own kind of IKFK controllers and adding some expressions to it so you can actually go between the two, as well as adding the actual handles and controllers at the end of it. Okay, thanks very much.